Hey, everybody, and welcome into the Better Buzz. I'm Dave Briggs, longtime national broadcaster. You name a network, I probably worked there. CNN, Fox News, NBC Sports, Turner Sports, Yahoo Finance. I even worked at ATN on HBO's Succession, joined by my co host in this journey, Lee Gall, former VP of Sales at Happy, one of my favorite THC drinks out there. And really, Lee, you are a THC drink educator, and that's what we seek to do here on this show.
Yeah, absolutely. I discovered the category back in 2023. I have been hooked as both a consumer and an advocate, and I love any opportunity I have to be able to spread the word to others, to educate anyone on how wonderful these drinks are and how great they can be for your lifestyle.
I discovered the category a long time ago at a dispensary before the hemp category even existed in California, and I started getting in touch with the few founders in the industry because I wanted in. I used to take tinctures and mix cocktails for my friends at parties, and they were like, "You really ought to do something with this." Now, I should have started a brand, but here we are. And what we want to do here on the Better Buzz is bring you the latest news in the THC drink category. And Lee, we also want to educate people on dosage, on the different categories, on where you can buy the drinks, on where you cannot buy the drinks, on the complicated legal challenges all across the country. Give people the information they need in what is a rocket ship of a category, right?
Yeah, well, and Dave, I think in the opposite of your upbringing, having access to dispensaries and having that side of the coin, I represent the other side because I live in Texas. And so when I came into this space, I didn't know that they existed because we don't have access like other states do. And I think it's because I live in Texas that the ignition for education got sparked. And that's when I knew there was a whole culture and segment of the population that just needed to know more so that they could consume these safely and then also help the whole space grow out of excitement.
And before we dive into some of the news, when people ask me where we are with this industry, I say maybe the first inning. I'm not even sure the game has started. I really think we're still in the preseason or spring training, but maybe in the first inning in terms of where I believe this business will go. Where do you think we are?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I would say the first inning because when you go into stores, you can tell that the shelves are absolutely stocked. There's 40 feet in some cases, and the brands are there. It's an easy entry point into the category, so it's been very quickly flooded. But the development is still lacking in a lot of areas. So the brands are in, but I've always kind of equated this to an island, and we have to create the civilization and make roads and put infrastructure in place. And
Yeah.
we have a lot of population, but there's still some of those fundamental components that we still need that are lacking that give me the indication that we're still in the early phases.
Very early. The estimates are, by the way, this is going to grow to a $2.6 billion business by 2030. It is currently around a $500 million industry. So they're guessing a 5x in the next 5 years. Imagine anything else other than AI growing at that rate. It's hard to comprehend. I am drinking an Elevado today, a mango margarita. I'll drink a different drink every week when we do this show. So let's start with some news that I found stunning when it comes to drinking alcohol. And only 54%, Lee, of Americans say they drink alcohol today. Gallup has been tracking that for 90 years, and they've never seen a number like that. In the early 80s, it was more than 70%. As early as 2023, it was 62%. It is down 9% in less than 2 years. That is a stunning falling off of a cliff in terms of drinking alcohol today. And it is down in every category, including age, income, gender, and race. And here's a funny factoid to it. Both parties, Republicans and Democrats, drink less. But for some reason, the biggest drop, Lee, is in Republicans. 46% of them say they drink today. That is down 19 points in 2 years. React to any of that. What surprises you? What does not?
The Republican fact is comical. I would love to dive into that more because there's so much to unpack, and my curiosity is definitely pinging. I
Because I
do
would have thought
think,
it opposite. I would
yeah,
have thought, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I know. I definitely want to dig in more to that one. I do think though, when you talk about the decline from 2023 to 2025, I can't help but feel like the Andrew Huberman podcast had something to do with that, because I know he released a podcast that was really starting to kind of educate the masses on the negative aspects of alcohol, and I know that had record numbers of listens, and I think it was in one of the top podcasts for the year.
Yeah.
And I feel like that could have been a really big catalyst to a lot of this.
I think you're right. I think what the next catalyst is the Surgeon General warning just a couple of years ago about alcohol. Dr. Vivek Murthy, and they said it really contributes to like 7 different types of cancer. I do think we needed a little more context in that, really about moderate drinking. I mean, I'll admit, I do love tequila. I've started drinking. Gin is kind of one of my new
Oh yeah.
favorites. I really have developed a taste for that. I love bourbon in the fall and the winter. So I still drink alcohol, but I do prefer a couple of nights a week because I do probably drink too much. I go with these because I just can't have a hangover and get anything done. That for me is the primary reason, but we're seeing health and wellness. Gen Z doesn't really drink, if at all. They love mushrooms, they love cannabis, and then of course there are the drinks behind us. So every factor seems to be leading to less drinking. Beer has been falling every year for the last 9 years, which is a crazy trend.
Yeah, and I actually saw a story the other day that put more context to the Gen Z phase or trend. And we know that Gen Z is drinking less, and I think everybody just assumes it's because they're more health conscious. And while that is relevant, it's also another big component is that that entire generation is less social. And because
Mm-hmm.
they have grown up with phones, they are more self-isolating, and therefore when you are not as actively social and going to other people's houses or bars, those are the occasions in which alcohol is traditionally drank. So if you are going out less, then by default, you're drinking less. So it's kind of this extra element that I had heard that was a light bulb moment for me that put more
Yeah.
context to the whole generational trend.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily smoking marijuana is declining the amount of alcohol drinkers. I do think edibles have been a huge factor, far bigger than THC drinks at this point. I mean, let me just give you one anecdote. I was at a nice restaurant with like 20 people at a dinner party. This is in Connecticut, like, kind of upper echelon fancy restaurant. Someone just pulled out a tin of gummies. It just passed its way around the table out in public, and almost everyone at that table grabbed one. That was my light bulb moment that something different is happening here. It was really interesting. So let's go back to the genesis, the beginning of this industry. I guess it has to be 2018, the Farm Bill, when they legalized hemp. In a matter of speaking, they did so really to help the farmers in Kentucky, because Mitch McConnell is in charge of the Senate. He wanted to help the farmers. I don't think they had any idea that we were going to get here and that
Yeah.
we were going to get here, but that's where we are. And what do you think the next big catalyst was around 2023?
Without a doubt, I think it was Minnesota putting this into law. That became the true gateway into what we now see. And for people that are in the industry, they know that Minnesota is ground zero and still remains to be the market to look at. And I think all the other cities around the United States have their own unique flair, but consistently Minnesota remains the launching pad for a lot of brands to go cut their teeth and see if they can make it and kind of determine, where they go from there.
I went to Minnesota late 23, early 24, and I was astonished at the amount of variety. I mean, I thought there was only like 5 or 6 brands. I really didn't know. And then I saw cooler after cooler after cooler, and it was nearly the size of the craft beer aisle. It blew my mind. I agree with you. Minnesota was the spark that lit this fire. I think the next thing really was Total Wine, the biggest liquor store chain in the country. When they got involved, I feel like that really normalized thing that felt very mainstream to me, to walk into Total Wine and see this massive THC drinks end cap that has grown and grown and grown. How big do you think Total Wine was in really changing the game?
Oh, I think they were absolutely massive. I think to everything you mentioned, there was this destigmatization that took place. There was accessibility. There was, marketing behind it. Just even though I know they weren't outwardly pushing it in those early days, and they are still kind of quiet about it in terms of consumer facing marketing, but they have done such a great job as a kind of premier feeling liquor store that people have no problem taking their kids in to grab the bottle of vodka or whatever. It's
Yeah.
that normalized. And so to see them embrace this category like they did just puts kind of a warm blanket around people that might be questioning if this is a drink that they want to try. That it's kind of like that little bit of encouragement because it's so easily available and supported by such a well-known company throughout the United States.
Yeah, and if you're right, it hasn't been that visible in their marketing, but if they want to sponsor this show, we're more than happy to welcome them in. I know their CEO I just saw is leaving today, but I know Andrea Stars and some friends are there. That hey, if you're looking for a content outlet, I wore this shirt because I don't think a college would ever sponsor us, but when I started following this school in college basketball, High Point University seems like a great partner for us. I'm not sure they'd want to be. I'll have to ask, but does it? I mean, I live on a street called High Point, which is crazy. And then I saw the school and I thought, High Point, we're trying to educate people on
Yeah.
THC drinks. So I'm just saying, Total Wine, High Point University, maybe we've got some potential sponsors out there, Lee.
Yeah, yes, I welcome any sponsors. But I recently went to Total Wine and shot a video for people that are kind of looking at where to start because just like we've been talking about, this has grown so significantly. There is a sea of brands, and for people that are trying to learn about where to start, they kind of need a little bit of guidance, which I know that we will help with in our show. But there's a lot out there, and I think they've done a great job embracing the category. And now we just need everyone to understand what exactly it is that they're purchasing and what they're shopping for.
Yeah, and John Halper, who's the founder and CEO of Top 10 Liquors in Minnesota, he's been instrumental in the growth of this business, really adopted it and really dove in. He told me that 15% of his sales are THC drinks in 2 years. That is a mind blowing number, even for him. 2 years, 15% of his sales makes no sense whatsoever. That is a straight up line that we didn't see with hard seltzer. We certainly never saw with wine or beer or spirits. And he also said that 15% number is interesting because only 3% of his store shelves are THC drinks. So it's just a massive category for him, and he's been really supportive. So here are the different categories.
Oh,
Next to me, we have wine, we have spirits, we have shots are flying, by the way.
mhm.
We have a million different kinds of seltzers. there are only, to my knowledge, two beers. This is Float House from my state of Connecticut, and I know Easy Man is the other one. That's all I know of in the beer space. Are you aware of any others? The seltzers have just been flooded.
Yeah, so those are the only two beers I know of. And Easy Man is made by Go Brewing out of Illinois. Fantastic product. It's great in a pool. I did want to highlight real quick, Dave, that Top 10 and John Halper in particular has done something pretty revolutionary for the category, not just by helping grow it and being early in, but even more so recently he's starting to create segments within the category and to make it easier for the shopper to understand what exactly they're buying. Because when you think about, when you go shopping for beer or wine, it's not just a sea of brands. You know that you're going for a Pinot Noir or a Merlot, and you are directed by segment. And up to this point with THC, it's just been kind of just thrown on the shelf with not very much organization. And I think John's done a really great job getting ahead of that by creating segments and really doing exactly what you just did, was pointing out each of the sub segments in a way
Yeah.
that's easy for shoppers to understand and know what they're buying.
And I think the first thing that we want to walk through people on this first episode is dosage. And that is all we want you to know on episode 1. John would tell you the vast majority, if not all, of his top 10 are high dose drinks, 10 milligrams and up. I believe what he's saying. I also believe that the market eventually will move on to what is a similar equivalent to a hard seltzer, a beer, a glass of wine, or a cocktail, somewhere around 2.5 or 3, if not even as many as 5. But the reason I don't love the high dose is like the edibles that are being consumed, at least here in Connecticut and my friends in Colorado and elsewhere, most people have a 5 milligram gummy and that's it for the night. So a 10 milligram drink just makes their head explode. Most of the 10 milligram drinks crush me. And I'll be honest, I've been consuming cannabis for 20 years and I'm also 185 pounds. I can't handle the high dose.
No, neither can I. And I am also an advocate for low dose. I understand that the high dose or the 10 milligram and above is all the rage right now. But I think we're seeing that for a few reasons. One is because the OG cannabis users were earlier to know about this category. And so they jumped in. And frankly, I think they skewed the numbers because they already have higher tolerance levels. And then they flooded the market. And the true end consumer in most cases still don't even know that these exist, or they don't realize
Absolutely.
that they're available in the market like they are, and they're still only choosing to purchase online. So I think the numbers are skewed by shopper, but then also it's a price compression element where there's without a doubt there's more value currently on the shelves by
Yeah.
purchasing a 10 milligram package, whether it's a 4-pack or a 6-pack. And the pricing has just not got sorted out yet to make it equitable for a shopper to buy a 5 milligram. And so they're going for the 10 because it's just more value, and they'll choose to drink half, put it in the fridge and save it, rather than just really being able to buy what they want. So I think we're seeing those numbers skewed for several reasons, and the long game is going to dictate otherwise if we can get this pricing figured out.
I wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said. Yeah, I think people walk up and say, why am I going to pay the same for 8 total milligrams when I can pay the same for 40 total milligrams when I can just maybe spread this drink around? But ultimately, we want this to be sessionable. I want to have 2 or 3, maybe even 4 because it's a Friday night. So, yes, I think we both agree long term, this will settle and we'll be drinking. And I recommend to everyone, if you haven't tried a THC drink, do not go for a 10. Spend a little more money in terms of per milligram and start with either a 2.5 or a 3. 3 is the max you can buy here in the state of Connecticut. We are maybe alone in that. Maybe there are a couple of others, but is that your recommendation that someone who's just trying this category start 2.5, three, or maybe five and drink half of it?
Oh, 100%. And I agree. Connecticut is definitely an outlier. Iowa has some weird laws too. So I think it's important to know what is available in your state, and to absolutely always read the labels, because there are often cans that look the exact same, and you might not realize that one is a 5 and one is a 10. So pay close attention to the label first and foremost. And if you have to get out a measuring cup, because I not only did that when I started, but I still do it, Dave, because I have yet to drink a full 10. I mean, cat's out of the bag. I've got a very low tolerance. I will pour the can into a measuring cup to ensure that I have exactly half, and then I'll save the rest for, a later date. So 2.5 to 5 max for starters. Read the labels and don't be afraid to actually like measure your stuff.
Yeah, and my fear is, and I think you hinted at this, that the industry needs to do a better job in separating high dose and low dose, because someone's going to walk in, they're going to have a 10, their night's going to be over really quick, and they're going to say no to the whole category instead of trying low and growing into it. Like, you don't, that doesn't happen to you with beer. It doesn't happen to you with high noon. It doesn't happen to you with a glass of wine. I wish the industry did a better job at separating high dose for low dose, because it's a dramatically different experience, man. I've had some 10s that knock me out. Again, I am 6'2", 185 pounds, and I've been consuming this stuff for a long time, and I'm thrilled I remain a lightweight.
Yeah, I think if we were to equate this to alcohol, you can't. I mean, you can accidentally overconsume on alcohol 100%, but it's usually through repetitive drinks in hand, because you are
Yeah.
know that you're continuing to drink. If, however, somebody picked up something that was the size of, a shot or like a small container, and by drinking it, they thought they were drinking the equivalent of a 5% beer, but in reality, they were getting a full bottle of tequila in terms of ABV, they would be
Yeah.
wrecked. But such a world doesn't exist in alcohol. However, when you look at these drinks, that very much does happen. And I was in a liquor store just the other day in the Dallas, Texas area, and I was kind of sick to my stomach because up next to the register was a THC drink of 50 milligrams in one can, 50, up the street, like outside from my gym, like where I play pickleball. And here's the thing. I go to pickleball and I talk about these drinks all the time. And if somebody went into that liquor store and
Oh,
picked up that can and said, "Oh, Lee's been talking about these, I'm going to give it a try," and they don't realize that 50 is too much, it's going to be the equivalent of that whole bottle of tequila and what they thought was one can of beer. It's they're going to get smacked.
crushed. I mean, and again, Lee and Dave's advice is start low and grow. 50 milligrams. I don't know if I'd wake up for about 18 hours. I mean, that would destroy me. A 10 milligram beverage often puts me night night very soon. And I'd also say, while I really love these are daisies and they're shots, and shots have become hugely popular, hugely, just like nips in the alcohol industry, because they're small. You can pound them, you can put them in your pocket, you can put them in your desk. That's 5 milligrams, right? That is a lot for some people. And you think, oh, it's so small, I'm just going to try some. 5 milligrams for some is all they need for an entire night. I hung out with a buddy just a couple of weeks ago, 220 pounds, big, strong, taller than me, bigger than me in every way. He had a 5 milligram gummy and he was gonzo. I mean, he was. So again, start low and grow. And with the spirits as well, like, read the fine print, how much per serving, pour it in a shot glass. Do not do like you do with a bottle of tequila and just pour in a sip of
Nope.
seltzer. You really need to be careful in reading the label. So before we go,
Oh,
we didn't
I
touch
actually
on.
wanted to add two quick things,
Yeah,
Dave, if you don't
go
mind.
ahead.
Two quick kind of notes is one, buddy that was 220 pounds that could only handle 5 milligrams. That's because, just food for thought, we all have an endocannabinoid system. And when we drink alcohol, it's processed through our nervous system, but these are processed through our endocannabinoid system, and it comes down to DNA. So you can't apply the same math of a 200-pound man walks into a bar and a 75-pound woman. You can't do that because the rules don't apply. And our endocannabinoid systems dictate how we receive these drinks. And then also, I wanted to add real quick regarding the
Yeah.
shots, that if you drink that, it's going to be a more similar experience to a gummy, with the exception that it will kick in faster because of the emulsion, but you'll get all of the effects at one time. One of the things that I love most about beverages is that I can sip slowly so that I have control
Yeah.
throughout the experience. And even though I might be drinking a 5 milligram can, I could be drinking that over several hours, and I can feel where I'm at and make that decision to drink more or less, versus when you drink that shot, you're going to get all of it at one time. And that's great for some, but if you're looking for control, I would recommend going with the ready to drink cans.
It's really interesting how you describe the endocannabinoid system. I actually did not really know that, because a quick anecdote. I mean, this guy that took the 5 milligram edible, we were at a concert, and Lee, he wanted to know why the rest of us didn't notice that the singer unzipped like a skin suit, and there was someone else inside the man. I mean, it was one of my favorite stories of all time. But again, this dude's like 6'3", 220, jacked, and he couldn't understand why we didn't see the unzipping of the skin suit
Oh
of
my
the
God,
man
that's
that was.
awesome. Well, and it's great because
Um,
he had this crazy experience, but in some cases, people's endocannabinoid system are the reason why they don't feel any effects. And I have a girlfriend who literally, under any circumstance, doesn't feel the effects of cannabis. And often, a lot of people have said that edibles, it's specifically edibles, they don't feel the effects from, but they do when they're either smoking or drinking. And it all goes
so
back.
weird.
Yeah, it's our endocannabinoid system, which is what makes this education so important that people understand,
That's why
because
we're here.
yeah, you have to start low and slow and figure out what is right for your body, because nobody's going to be able to tell you.
Okay, I told the story about this guy. Next week, when we do the show, I want you to reveal, if you had one, a bad or funny cannabis experience. And mine involves an ATM vestibule. I will just save that and tease that ahead to next week. But before we go, we wanted to touch on where these drinks are available. You hit on the liquor stores, but tell me where else that you think have really made a difference in seeing them in different parts of the country, stores, events.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So again, we talk about how they really kind of started to emerge in 2023 because they were hemp and Minnesota wrote them into law. Fast forward to today, and now we are not only seeing them in the liquor stores and the package stores, but now they're available in a lot of convenience stores. Circle K came out and has been putting them in sets. It was really one of the first big C-store chains to jump in. In addition to that, we are seeing a lot of grocery chains all across the United States, Iowa and Illinois. And you got Stu Leonard's, which is a real premier grocery store up, in the Northeast. And frankly, what better way to normalize that than to be able to,
Yeah.
pick up a bag of carrots or some toilet paper and some cannabis beverages. And then even recently, we saw that Live Nation has jumped on board, and there was a festival just last month, and nowadays was one of the premier sponsors and available for purchase. And I couldn't think of a better partnership, because you're at a concert, you are going to experience more of the music, and then
Yeah.
you're going to wake up the next morning and remember everything that happened.
I think concerts are the perfect place to really grow this industry because people are already largely using cannabis over alcohol at concerts. It's perfect to allow you to enjoy the music and the scene. I really think that is going to be essential in growing. I do think sporting events would be nice, and that will make it feel mainstream. And I know the Portland Pickles, a baseball team, have jumped in, but I think, to my knowledge, that may be it. And they are not exactly a mainstream professional franchise, but we will see sporting events in the next couple of years. I do believe the NFL, Major League Baseball, all of them, at least by 2030, if not by 27. And they are not served aboard airplanes, even though a brand did put out a video saying they were available. I'm not going to mention the brand, they don't deserve it, that they were available on Virgin airplane flights. That is not true, though I do believe at airports and on airplanes, perfect, because we see so many angry passengers.
Mhm.
If they're drinking these, they're going to be chilled out. And if I'm a flight attendant, if I'm that union, if I'm pilots, I'd much rather have my passengers drinking a couple THC drinks than alcohol. So I think airports and airplanes need to do it quickly.
Yeah, I thought of it's one of my personal kind of secret reasons why I also like these drinks over alcohol. And I can't think of a better place than airplanes and concert venues. I'm sure you're trying to figure out how these two would be connected, but it's because you don't have to use the restroom as much as you do when you're drinking alcohol. So you're at a concert or even a football game or on an airplane and you have a few drinks, and now you've broke the seal and you're just having to go wait in line or get up all the time. But these drinks make it so that you get a nice little buzz, you have the relaxation, and yet
Mm.
you're not having to stand in the line for the restroom, which is an exceptional hell if you're a woman. And it's a like a fun little added benefit that a lot of people don't think about.
And they are in thousands of restaurants and bars across the country. In my state of Connecticut, they suddenly pulled that loophole back. But bars and restaurants are really seeing a lot of growth. I had them in some really nice restaurants in my town. And I think restaurants will also enjoy that because it might encourage people to eat a little more food, which makes a lot of sense. So, been a lot of fun in episode 1 of the Better Buzz. If you have any suggestions, if you have a better name, if you have a sponsor, if you have topics you'd like us to cover, let us know. You can find me on Instagram, probably the best place to find me, at Dave Briggs TV. I answer every single DM. How should people reach out to you?
I am at The Enlightened Buzz. That's on YouTube and on Instagram. And again, I'm quite responsive. Feel free to send me a message, and I look forward to chatting with anyone.
And feel free to send us as many samples as you want. We will display them, and at least I will drink them throughout the show. I'd like to see you have a couple next week, okay?
I'm game. I'm game. I'll come locked and loaded.
All right, she's drinking with me next week, and we're both going to share some wacky cannabis experiences. Thanks for being with us, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.